Dr. Kerry Kraemer earned a BS in biology in 1994 from Mount Mary University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then went on to earn her DVM degree in 1998 from the University of Wisconsin Madison School of Veterinary Medicine. She worked for 5.5 years in Wisconsin before accepting a position at a busy, well-respected small animal hospital in Chicago, where she stayed for almost 10 years. After having her daughter, Dr. Kraemer, and her fiance moved to the southwest suburbs of Chicago in the summer of 2012. It was at that time Dr. Kraemer decided to work part-time so she could spend more time with her daughter. Dr. Kraemer found it difficult to find a position at a clinic that met all her expectations, and within 2 years, she had transitioned through 3 veterinary hospitals. During the year and a half she spent at the 3rd hospital, Dr. Kraemer began taking relief shifts at a small animal ER in Chicago to supplement her part-time income. Over time, she found herself getting more and more relief work, and in February of 2016, Dr. Kraemer resigned her part-time position to be solely a relief practitioner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so just a little background. Dr. Kraemer and I met when we were working at the worst animal hospital on planet Earth, which I talk about in podcast 1.
Oh, I know. I had a feeling you were talking about that place, huh? Go figure.
That place.
Yeah, I was only there for 5 months. You said 9 months, so my guess is you probably were only there for about 6 or 7. It probably just felt like a lot longer to you.
Exactly. Actually, it felt like 19 years.
Yes, I know. And when I ditched you because I was ready to lose it. So sorry.
Oh, yeah. So just to give just a little bit more of supporting evidence of what a horrible place that was, to let the audience members know that I was not exaggerating. There was one day, and we had 15-minute appointments, and I think we were given 30 minutes for lunch, which we never got because 15 minutes.
Or sometimes you weren't even given it. Oh, we just filled your lunch. Sorry.
That's true. Sometimes we didn't get a lunch at all. So I had my usual book schedule, and you were working the same day, and you had your usual book schedule, but you called in sick.
Oh God, yes. I remember that. I was really, really sick.
I believe you. I don't hold it.
I know you do.
I'll get sick. But instead of calling all of your appointments back to reschedule, they just put them onto my schedule. They just moved them all over to my schedule. Yeah, so I had...
It's not acceptable.
For all my appointments that day.
And we wonder why we have mental health issues in this profession.
I don't know how the two of us, we had some experience in vet med. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the interview about how we got fooled into ending up in such a horrible place. Right. But
it was a fool. We did get fooled, yeah.
We were fooled, yeah. So maybe we can later in the interview talk about ways that future veterinarians can avoid making the mistakes we made when we ended up getting fooled into working at that worst practice on planet Earth.
On that note, I will say right off the bat that I did leave the clinic for lunch. I would go across the street in my car to a parking lot and eat my lunch just because I could. If I stayed in the clinic, they would put me to work. So the first lesson is you have to take care of yourself or nobody else will.
That's for sure.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, let's begin by just talking a little bit about your pre-veterinary history. What made you, whether you were a really young kid or later in life, what made you decide that you wanted to be a veterinarian?
I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was very young. And I, just because I loved animals. I mean, whenever I went somewhere like with the family or to a family picnic or traveled, everyone would be hanging out or the kids would all be hanging out and I always hung out with the dogs. Yeah. I mean, I think probably just had a lot to do with it. I was kind of a shy, quiet kid and I related to the dogs better. So, I mean, I really do feel like I have this connection or understanding and, all that we all kind of feel. And then, I was an intelligent student and I really loved science. So there was that, but I did get away from it briefly in high school. And in the beginning of college, when I kind of went into another area of science, I was looking at dietetics, I was looking at occupational therapy. And finally I worked, I worked a couple of summers at a horse ranch at a camp, and I was really awesome with the horses and I loved it and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should rethink that whole veterinary thing. So I did. There you go.
Interesting. So it was horses that made you decide to become a veterinarian ultimately, even though you loved all kinds of animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
find that.
I didn't know. I loved horses. I'd always loved horses, but I finally had a chance to work with them and realized that, oh my God, I was really good. Like they put me in charge of this horse ranch, like by my second summer there. I worked there 3 summers. And so I thought initially about equine vet, but of course, when you learn about equine vet, you know that these people are like, whoa, like super intense. And the equine vets have probably been around vets since before they were, or around horses since before they were born, and I was like, and these horses are worth $50,000. I'm like, yeah, I don't really think, talk about high maintenance clients. No, thank you. That was a good decision on my part, I think. Then, you can get dangerously injured from horses. So, I didn't really feel like putting myself at risk.
Yeah. Physically and financially.
Yeah.
Right.
Lots of, yeah. So anyway,
Rectal
I don't do that. Oh gosh. Yep, exactly. We weren't even allowed to do that in school.
Yeah, I know, because
Right.
it's much more dangerous on horses for some reason. And
God.
if you're dealing with an owner that's got a horse that's worth a lot of money, oh boy.
Right. Yeah, I learned pretty quickly. I didn't want to do that.
So, but before you got into vet school, did you envision tell me what your picture was of your future as a veterinarian? How did you see it?
Well, I spent a lot of time with a large animal farm vet. I grew up in northern Wisconsin. I knew my way around a farm. So there was that. I spent a lot of time on farms. I just did. And so I kind of thought about that too, but as the years went on in vet school, I thought, God, again, it's just it's physically hard, and I'm not going to be 25 forever. Well, I wasn't even 25 when I graduated. But yeah, so it was just like, hey, do I really want to do that? Do I really? And you know what else? Do I want to stink and be cold every day because I live in the north and 9 months out of the year it's cold? I mean, it was just a physical. I was just like, what am I thinking? Like, that's just like, whatever on top of misery. So so I thought, I love I love dogs, and this just makes more sense to me. So I decided to be going to small animal.
Okay.
So there.
And did you work before veterinary school? Did you work for any veterinarians at vet hospitals?
I never worked at a clinic. I only had a glimpse into the profession. And you know what? It was large animal. Yeah. I really didn't know the ins and outs of a small animal clinic at all.
Right. Well, I did. I worked at a couple of veterinary clinics to get my hours to apply for vet school. And I can tell you, it didn't help. Like, working as a veterinary assistant gives you no idea whatsoever of what it's actually like to be a veterinarian. So
yeah, I got my hours in through large animal, working on a horse ranch and interning at the Milwaukee Zoo. So it was really obviously totally not a preview of my future.
Interesting. Yeah, very different. Okay, so then when you started veterinary school, tell me your perceptions of veterinary school in terms of, was it exactly like you thought it would be? Was there anything surprising? What was the best?
Okay.
What was the worst?
Yeah, that's a good question. Couple of things I did remember. Now, this is back in 1994 when I started, and the competition wasn't quite as fierce as it is today. I mean, it still was there, and there was only 26 schools at the time, but like we didn't have to interview or anything, and I was accepted early, like pretty much like a week or two after I sent my application, and I was accepted. Well, I found out I was I had one of the highest GPAs, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. So, but that said, even though I didn't really I did not breeze through high school or college. I got really good grades, but I worked for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hit vet school, I was shocked at how hard it was. I had never felt that so much in my life. It was so hard. I struggled to get B's when I had been like an A student my whole life. Mm-hmm. And it was a real eye opener. And it was also really injured my self-worth, because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. It started way back then. So that's not good. It was really hard. And I mean, you know what? I mean, honestly, there's obviously nothing wrong with but just FYI, it is definitely very, very difficult. And I studied a lot. So that's what I remember the most about my first year. I mean, I think, other good things, but that was the hardest thing.
So Dr. Kraemer, what was your GPA going into vet school?
Oh gosh, why don't I not know this? Oh my gosh, I actually have my transcript somewhere. I mean, so in my college, we had it was a private Catholic school. It had a weird grading system. And I had an AB average, because an A was like 96 or better. It was like, it was, you had to do really well to get an A. So I had like figure like a 95 average. So my grade point was, I think it was like 3.8 or something. I don't know. I graduated cum laude, whatever that requirement was. Yeah. So it was maybe like around 3.8.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. Cum laude is like 3.5 to at 3.9 is where sum laude starts.
Okay.
I think. But okay. So that's good to know. Yeah. University of Wisconsin-Madison. I actually applied there, and they had no interviews. They had no interviews in 2007 when I applied.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I did not get in as an out-of-state student. I was in Virginia, but I was listed as first on their waiting list.
Okay. Nice.
I could have gone there, but winters in Virginia are much nicer than winters in the Midwest, and I can't imagine large animal rotations in the winter in Wisconsin.
Yes. That was a little chilly.
So what was your favorite part of veterinary school?
I mean, probably the camaraderie. You're making all these friends who are in this together. And the little difference with vet school than in undergrad is you're kind of like a high school all over again, because everybody's in the same class. You're going to the exact same classes at the same time all day from morning till night. Mm-hmm. So you're doing everything together. We had a standard group of us that would study at the school. So we, hung out there together in that respect. So yeah, I mean, that was great. You really were in it together, I would have to say.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you started it?
I went straight through, very traditional. So I was 22.
Okay. All right. So, which is the majority of, I think most people who go through vet school are about that age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. They graduate in 4 years, which isn't necessarily the norm anymore, I think. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you enjoyed that. And do you keep in touch with people that you met while you were in vet school?
Just like a couple, not so much. I think that we all got so spread out and busy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's kind of odd that, for how close we were, that, yeah. But, then I've also been out like 20 years. So I did keep more so in touch with them right afterwards. I know.
Yeah. Was there anything about veterinary school? I mean, besides how hard it was academically, was there anything that you really disliked?
Besides histopathology specifically. I mean, there's certain classes I disliked because, like I said, they were just impossible to me for my brain that, used to not have any. There were some classes I just couldn't figure out. And had I not had friends to pull me through, I don't know if I would have made it. There was biochemistry, physiology, and a lot of them had to do with, of course, the instructors.
Right.
that's some of the instructors were just so out of touch, and they're just super smart people, very intelligent, very, you know, all they're professors, so they're really in it for the research or whatever, but they probably have no really teaching, not necessarily teaching experience, but no teaching education or anything. So, some people are natural teachers and some people are not.
That is,
I think
very
that's a
true.
big thing. Like
Yeah.
half your teachers might not really be that great of teachers, and some of them were fantastic. So
Sure.
that was good.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it depends on which school you go to, because I think the colleges themselves often have an emphasis on teaching versus research. Like my sister has a PhD, and she teaches at a college in North Carolina, and her school emphasizes teaching, so she gets more points for being a good teacher.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
The pressure isn't on her to research, but I think probably at a lot of medical colleges, veterinary medical colleges, the emphasis has to be on research in order to bring in those dollars.
Right. Well, that I remember, in addition to many of my classmates, a lot of the teachers were just so uber intelligent that sometimes that can equate to being a little out of touch or, with people. And it unfortunately was a little obvious. So,
Right.
apparently, I don't know if I fall into that category so much.
Well, you and I are
I worked for it,
but not that introverted.
right? No, and not that uber intelligent.
Well, speak for yourself, Dr. Kraemer.
Right. I will. I definitely, I had to work for my grades, I would say.
No, I always have.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know who these people are who's like, oh yeah, organic chemistry was easy. No.
Oh my God. I'm so I totally didn't study for this test. And then they, totally ace. And I'm like, what? I was up all night. I slept for half an hour. Yeah.
Alex is like that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, so let me ask you this, if you don't mind, because every podcast I'm gonna have just a little section to talk about finances. So, if you don't mind my asking, what was your student loan debt when you graduated from veterinary school?
It was right around 80 to 85. So I had two separate loans. One was just a very small loan, probably accounted for $5,000. And that was paid off obviously very quickly. So, yeah, it was right around that. And that was 1998. And I didn't have any undergrad loan. So that was all vet school.
So, and what is your student loan debt now?
76,000. And I've paid, like I said, almost for 19 years. It was because I paid off that little first one, and now I have paid on this one. It's almost equal. I think I told you this the other day. I paid 76,000, and now I still owe 76,000. I just in the last few years started chipping away at the principal.
The principal, right? So,
Yeah.
do you know what your interest rate is?
Yeah, it's 6.25 or something. And it started off really high, 7 or 8.
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy. It was crazy high, and I had to work to drop it.
Yeah. So this is a really common theme that I'm hearing from a lot of vets that I talk to is they may be 20 years out, but they still haven't made that much progress on paying their loans down because of the interest that just keeps accruing. And I think a lot of us end up, life is unpredictable, it's capricious, and sometimes you have to pay less than you're supposed to, and sometimes you have to go on forbearance. So I don't think that's uncommon at all. I still have mine.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about your beginning as a professional doctor of veterinary medicine. I'd like to hear about your first job, and specifically, I want to hear about how the transition from being a veterinary student to being a veterinary doctor practicing felt to you. Were you surprised?
Okay.
What were you surprised about? Or did it meet your expectations?
Well, I felt wholly unprepared for the profession, to be honest. It was in school, you obviously do a lot of following around. You don't get to do a heck of a lot. You really don't. You're not really the decision maker, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And then, of course, there's the whole disconnect of you are working in a referral institution where you're doing these amazing procedures and practicing this amazing medicine, and then you get out and it's so not like that. So I really felt unprepared. I was also only 26 years old, so I felt really young, and I looked young. Oh my gosh, did I look young? People obviously no, but unfortunately, I took a job at a clinic that I really was a little hesitant about, and I should have gone with my gut because I only worked there for like 5 months, and this my boss was not supportive. He took off on vacation a week after I started, a week or two,
Uh-huh.
and just kind of left me to figure stuff out on my own.
I have heard of this.
I called the local. Yes. Yep. He just didn't really care. He was done. And I called the local emergency clinic a lot and asked them questions, and they were so nice to me. They were wonderful. There's two doctors there in particular who just really were always there to lend a hand, and they both had come from Madison. So I don't know. It was kind of a camaraderie. They were awesome.
They'd come from
And, I
University of
referred to them a
Madison.
lot. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were
Yeah.
great.
I think that's a really good thing for people to keep in mind is once they start practicing is you can always call another doctor in the area, the ER or specialists, if they're not with a patient or a client, they're often happy to get on the phone and help you out. So that's a really important resource. I'm glad you brought that up. So you were there
Yeah.
for 5
I still do it.
months. And so he came back from vacation, and did the situation improve after he came back from vacation? Did he mentor you?
No, he certainly did not. Luckily, he did own 2 clinics, and the other clinic, but he didn't work at the other one. Another woman ran it, and she was wonderful. She was so nice. She wasn't terribly much older than me. She was really nice, really honest with me, and it was like night and day. And I ended up there more. I was just so much there. So yeah, that's good. But yeah,
Dr. Kraemer,
I mean, there was. Uh,
can you
yes,
hear me okay?
yes. Did you
Okay.
lose me?
Yeah, I
So
don't
okay.
know if you're moving your phone around, but sometimes because this is an internet connection, I think, and I think sometimes you were phasing in and out. So you were talking about
Yes.
the difference between those 2 doctors at your first clinic being night and day.
Yes. Yeah. So it was so much nicer when I got to work with her. So much nicer, and yeah, he just again he was doing a lot of things that even as a new grad I knew were very questionable, definitely unethical. Yeah, like non-sterile surgery techniques, using the same pack from animal to animal, making me do the same. So I mean, when he was gone, I wouldn't. I did it the right way because it was it was my license, my ethics, and yeah. But it was hard to see, and it was a wake up call from the beginning.
And
So
so this was your first experience right out of vet school. And I mean, you must have thought, oh my God, is it like this everywhere?
well, I think I knew better, luckily, because he really wasn't a very well-liked person in the community, as I learned, or by the fact that his staff was quitting by the dozens. That's exaggerating, but you know what I mean. In fact, the day I quit, somebody else quit, if that gives you any idea. So I knew that I had gotten myself into an unfortunate situation,
Okay.
at least. Yeah.
Okay. And that's when you moved on to the clinic where you stayed for 5.5 years.
Yeah, well, I was there for like 5 years almost. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
much better.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
Yeah, it was a good clinic.
only, 6 months out of school?
Right. Yes.
Did you feel like you'd gotten the hang of it by then?
No, my God. I would say, sorry, I have to plug my phone in here. I'm running out of batteries. I definitely did. And I always remember thinking, I remember this even in one of my yearly reviews at that place, that I was making a joke that it took me about 5 years to feel comfortable, like even close to comfortable. But that clinic was so much better with mentoring me. And there were 5 of us there, 5 vets. So
That must have been really nice, yeah, to be able to
yeah.
talk to other veterinarians. I mean, even experienced veterinarians, like when you and I worked together, you had a lot more experience than
Mm-hmm.
me. I just had a couple years of ER experience at that point, but it's so good to be able to talk to other vets because it's always possible that somebody else will think of something you haven't thought of, see something from a different
Mm-hmm.
angle. So
Absolutely. And you can't know everything. You absolutely can't know everything. And that's such, and back then, the whole dichotomy of the situation is back then I thought I had to know everything. Now I'm smart enough to know that you can't, and so that's okay.
I
It's
love
totally
that.
okay. Why, how the heck should I know everything? That's impossible.
And, I think the ability to admit that you don't know only comes after you've gained a great deal of
Mm-hmm.
confidence, right? So
Right.
at
Yeah.
a certain point, 5 years into your career or so, when you start to feel like you know what you're doing, that's when you start to realize, oh, this is all normal and it's normal not to know everything. And so I'm just
It's
going to,
normal.
I don't know.
Right.
I need to look
I
it up.
think back then you just think, oh, I don't know anything. And now that we know something, that we know that we're not, just faking it, that we realize that the truth behind it all, something like that.
Right. Yeah. And when you first started, you said that you sounded you looked very young. Did you
Yes.
have clients question you? Did you feel
A couple.
about? Yeah.
I did have a couple. I don't think anybody was mean about it, interestingly enough. But some of them did make comments like, wow, you're blah, blah, blah. You look so young. Like apparently they didn't even think I looked 26, but
right.
or whatever, 20 something at the time. So yeah, I don't think anybody was mean about it, which yeah.
Okay. Well, and so then at that Better Clinic, you stayed 5.5 years, and then you ended up getting. Tell me about how you ended up over in Chicago from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I just really wanted a big city. Is this what it came down to? I don't know. It was just something that I had always thought I would do eventually in life, is live in a big city. So I interviewed a little bit in Milwaukee and a little bit in Chicago. And even though this was a good clinic, I was still really unhappy there. And it just had a lot to do with, I was just so stressed out. Like I just didn't really love what I was doing because it was so hard, to put it very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was just so hard. And I just constantly was questioning myself, constantly having self-esteem issues. So I was looking for something bigger and better. And I think that's part of the reason too why I thought I should move on. But I ultimately wanted to live in a big city, and so that is why I started looking.
Okay,
I guess.
And so when you started at this clinic in Chicago, did it change how you felt? Because usually, I think if you're feeling insecure, going to a big city where you expect doctors to be, I don't know, even like you expect the great doctors to be around great cities, right? Versus if you're in a smaller town, you might
right. Oh, totally.
to be. So for you to say that you had self-esteem issues,
yeah,
to throw yourself into a hospital where you're going to be surrounded by even better doctors, presumably. That's just something that makes me wonder. Gutsy.
That's funny.
Very
yes, it was. Wow. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh. I remember thinking that I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to buckle down and do it. And I remember probably for the first 5+ years of veterinary school, I barely read like works of fiction. I always had like textbooks next to my bed, because this was like honestly before Vin, I think, at the time, or anything. It was still textbooks back in my day. So yeah, I just decided I was just going to make myself really smart and keep learning. And I think I mean that I think that having that attitude made me feel a little more confident. But
I think this is something that's important for future veterinary doctors or future doctors of any kind, medical doctors of any kind, to know is that once you
Are you
get
still
out
there?
of school, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, somebody was calling on my phone. So anyway,
But I think you make a
interrupted.
really good point. But that all of the reading you did was academic, was medically related in your first 5 years. But I think this is a necessity.
Yeah,
Absolutely think it's a necessity. Your first 5 years out, you're still trying to.
that's true because I still do it. I mean,
You still do it, but a lot less.
Right.
When you first
Right.
get out this first 5 years, you have to expect to dedicate a lot of time outside of work to reading,
Yeah.
studying. And
That's very
so
true.
You get the big picture in your head that actually allows you to practice.
Yeah, because everything is new. Like, can you imagine your first case of diabetes or your first case of Cushing's disease? It's like you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. You read all about the pathophysiology.
Right.
Learned all about that.
Mm-hmm.
But
those little tips and nuances that you learn down the road,
yeah.
like, you can just, or like when you look at blood work, you can just ignore that. Like, there are little things like that. Like, you just don't know. Like, you're going to panic over every little, minor difference or abnormality in the blood work panel. It's like, now you learn, it's just like easier.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Just have to put in the time. So at the new clinic in Chicago then, how did you feel there? You must have felt good if you stayed 10 years.
Yeah. That's funny because I don't remember. It was a very challenging place to work because you had a lot of very demanding clients. A lot of people expected the best of the best because we were like one of the best in the city, still are. And I don't remember feeling horror. I mean, I didn't feel like I did when I first started, so I must have learned something. But it was also, I think it was balanced. It was super balanced out by the fact that I moved to the city. I met a lot of new friends instantly at this clinic. And we, like I said, because there was 2 owners and 8 of us practicing. You always had somebody to talk to and discuss it with. And we did it every day, every morning, all the time. So that really helped. You just got dependent on that. So, yeah.
So, pardon me.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, what do you think it was that made this clinic so great, so popular? It's like you had affluent, pretty wealthy clients coming, patronizing this clinic. What was it about this hospital that made it so successful?
Yeah, well, the owner, obviously, they had some outstanding vets come through there, and one of the owners in particular is a pretty well-known vet in the city, but also nationally. He's been the head of a lot of things, head of the American Heartworm Association and some other things. So he was just outstanding. Like, there's just, you don't encounter vets like that every day. So I think that really boosted the clinic over the years, probably. But yeah, like I said, when you have, they built up to the point where they got 10 doctors all at once. There's the fact that living and working in Chicago, there are multiple referral places, tons of them. So you're really getting a glimpse of some pretty good and pretty advanced medicine. No matter whether you're practicing it or not, you're managing these cases back and forth with these specialists.
Right.
So that makes a huge difference.
It certainly does. Yeah. And I talked about this in I can't remember which book it was now. The book about practicing medicine, about how when you get out of school, the medicine you practice is nowhere near what you see in the vet school. But even if you can land yourself in a good private practice, a day practice, where clients are willing to get referred referred, then you still get to be a part of the more advanced medicine. It can still be very fulfilling, because then you get to find out. You get the specialist reports
Yes.
on what they found, the tests that they did, and you learn from that. And
Right.
that is also very helpful.
Right. Things you never would have found out on your own, because they're doing all these amazing tests that you just don't have access to.
Yeah.
So you really do learn a lot. Like, oh, there you go.
Yes. I consider that continuing education when I get to refer a case and then find out what they found out and how they found it out.
Right.
Okay, and then so you had your daughter towards the end of your time there at the Chicago clinic, and that's when you decided you wanted to move to the suburbs to give her a better life growing up.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and then so I did not have to work so hard, really. I mean, living in the city, obviously the cost of living is high, and I was working still, probably close to 40 hours a week, and cutting back further wasn't really an option. You just can't afford it. I guess depending on what your needs are, or how much your partner might make, or whatever. So yeah, it was just a wise decision. And of course that happens to a lot of people in Chicago, period, because it's expensive to live in Chicago, and especially when you don't want to work as much and you have to raise a child and send them to school and all those other activities. It's obviously unattainable for some people. So yeah, it was definitely the good decision. Very good decision, as much as I miss it.
Yeah, I miss it too. Out here in Flagstaff,
I know.
I miss the restaurants, and I miss Grant Park.
Totally. Yes.
And I miss the energy that's there.
Energy. Yes, I feed off that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, quiet, more laid back life is certainly something that I can't complain about. But yeah, of course, you miss a lot of the stuff.
There are times, certainly. Okay, and then so that's when out in the suburbs, you had a very similar experience to what I had experienced, which is you started working at a private practice and it didn't meet your expectations, and so you just moved along, and then you moved on, and again it didn't meet your expectations. So talk to me a little bit about that experience in your life.
The multiple clinics, or just the surprise? Or
you say in your bio that you went through 3 different clinics in 2 years because they didn't meet your expectations. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I obviously, number one, I was used to practicing good medicine at a very well managed clinic. No matter how stressful it was, it obviously had a lot of pluses. So to go someplace where I was just like shaking my head at so many of the situations there was just really hard. And I just, ethically couldn't do it, both medicine wise and management wise. It just did not sit right with me, and it shouldn't have. Why should I lower my standards? So, and I was also pointing out that I was looking for a part-time job, and they were very hard to find a part-time job. So I had slim pickings. So that didn't help. So I had to keep looking and looking. And the third place I worked, like I said, was I think it was an AHA practice. It wasn't amazing, but it certainly was. It was better in a lot of ways, and also incredibly different in a lot of other ways. So
I know, I remember that. So the second of the 3 hospitals that you transitioned through during that time was that where you and I met?
Yes.
You met? Okay. And then, so the third place was this last place. And I remember at that point, after you left the practice where we met, the worst practice on planet Earth, you said, that's it. I am only going to work at AHA certified.
Oh yeah, I think I did.
Hospitals.
You're right.
Yep.
Yes. And I don't even think you have to be AHA certified to be good, but at least if you are, that does say something about you. So, yeah, I do remember saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, at least it says that somebody who owns it cares and they are making good decisions, one would hope. So,
yes, yes. But I think the challenge that you faced there was a lot of it was related to the demographics.
yeah, right. Totally opposite of the city. So again, you know, the suburbs, the low income area, and of course the pets were just in a pretty rough shape. So it was a new challenge.
Yeah, I remember your stories from that. I remember how hard that was. So it's really important, I think, to keep in mind and I'm just starting to appreciate this, that where you work has such an impact on your work. And I had taken it for granted, you know, as soon as I graduated vet school, I went straight to Chicago. I was living in the suburbs outside of Chicago, but I worked in a place where it was all small animal, and there were specialists available in every direction, and every kind of specialist was available. So even if people didn't want to, at least I could say, this is what you should do.
Right. Right.
But, you know, and
a lot of people want to. If you're in a right, but a lot of people do, and that obviously makes it so much easier.
It does.
When they do. Yeah.
At least if you can say this is what you should do, it takes some of the pressure.
Yes.
But if you're in a place that, you know, like where I'm in Flagstaff now, there are 0 specialists, none.
Wow.
There's no internal medicine, no surgical specialists, there's no ophthalmologists, nothing.
Wow. That's so hard. I just can't even, I'm so used to it. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm sorry.
I think it was something to think about, you know, before we get out here, but it is. And I want future veterinarians to keep that in mind. So it's, it's that, but it's also demographics. So that hospital where you worked, it was AHA certified. So, you know, there's some good things about it, but it was in a low income area. So it was, I think that was a bit emotionally tough for you.
It's, yeah, it totally was, because I was having to budget a lot of cases that clearly needed much more than myself or the owner could provide. And, you know, the animals, of course, were the ones suffering more so than me. Yeah. So, yeah, and that was just hard. I mean, I was a learning experience. I did get to do a lot of stuff that I wouldn't, and treat a lot of stuff that I wouldn't normally have, and, you know, with some pretty creative ways in doing so. Exactly. Yeah. But I did miss the specialist. I remember, like, when I left the city, I think I was not good at cardiology, because just about everybody and anybody would see a cardiologist, because of course, you know, it's the heart, it's kind of important. And that was just something I was not used to dealing with, like even to this day, because everybody wanted to see a cardiologist. So, you know, it's, you know, you're just not going to, you can't really treat cardiology. It's hard to do without an echo. It really just is.
You don't really know what you're treating.
You don't. You really don't 100%. So,
yeah, which is an ultrasound of the heart, if listeners.
Yes.
All right. So then, now I remember, because this was around to February of 2016. That's when you decided, because while you were working part-time at this clinic, you had started picking up relief shifts, right? At the ER in Chicago. And they were overnight. They were overnight shifts, weren't they?
They were. Yeah, they didn't have to be, but they weren't at first. I don't know. I might have even been doing it earlier than that. I don't remember, but I worked there for a long time. I can't remember. I think I did it right around that time, because this third job I took was a very limited part-time. And it was, you know, I wasn't even getting insurance, so it was less than 30 hours a week. So I decided if I was going to take this job, I remember now, I searched around for a place to go, and I had a good friend who I used to work with in the city who gave them my information. So that was very nice of him. So yeah, so I did start working there. Sometimes it was mostly Sundays, obviously. Occasionally I might have been able to do a Wednesday during the week overnight. But yes, I would do a lot of overnights.
And up to that point, you had only general practice, day practice experience. What was it like for you to go on in and do an overnight ER shift by yourself,
right,
without previous ER experience?
Well, two things. I did actually when I was in the city before I got pregnant, I worked for a year or two doing relief at another ER, so I did it like once a month for a couple of years. So I had a little touch of ER experience, but at that clinic, I was always with another doctor. So that was obviously very helpful.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't have ER training. However, when I did that, I did have, like 16, 17 years of experience. I also had experience at a really good clinic where we were practicing pretty high quality medicine. So that helped. I did not know, I still don't know a lot of the super intense ER, practices that you're going to get if you do a resident internship or whatever. But but it was okay. I still, I guess, knew enough to manage. And a lot of ERs have multiple locations, so I could always pick up the phone and call the other location, and they were super helpful.
Right. Even if it were a competing ER,
Oh, yeah. Actually, I did that too.
Doctor.
Yep, I did that at another one because I worked at a little kind of like a smaller one that wasn't, it was like a basic ER. And a lot of times we would even refer up to the specialty ER. So I would call them in the middle of the night sometimes.
So, okay. Did you end up having to do surgeries in the middle of the night that you had never done before?
No major surgeries. A lot of like lacerations, typical things like that. But this ER eventually had a surgeon on call.
Okay.
So one time I almost had to do an enucleation in the middle of the night, but then the clients declined and I had to leave the eye hanging up. So, such is veterinary medicine.
Yeah. All right. So then
they did go to another vet in the day.
They did. Sure. I mean,
yeah, they just had to sit with the dog hanging, the eye hanging up.
Right.
What was that?
Enucleation is not an emergency surgery.
Well, at that point it wasn't because the optic nerve was detached, so there was no saving the eye. So yeah, we probably didn't even feel it all that much besides the inflammation and swelling around. So yeah.
Can you hear me? You were phasing in and out.
Yep. You just froze. Yep. Okay. Better?
Okay, so then it was because of taking those ER shifts as a relief veterinarian, is that when you started thinking, I could do this full-time? Because it pays better, on the surface at least, it pays better to be an ER relief veterinarian, even though you're responsible for paying all of your own, like your AVMA dues, your licensing dues, your continuing education, your health insurance, all of those costs become yours because you're an independent contractor. But it seems like working ER, because you get paid by the hour typically, and you charge more, that it balances out and makes it worth it. Is that when you started thinking about maybe being a full-time relief veterinarian? What I meant was relief veterinarian.
Yeah. Yes, I was making decent money. I was like hourly, the pay was much more, but yes, it's not like I do actually make a little more money because I can work more. It's not like I only have a choice to work. I only have set hours, 2 days a week or something. Some days I work twice a week. Some days I work 4 or 4.5. I rarely work 5. Sometimes I do, but not very often. But So yeah, you can, if you're falling behind financially, you just schedule yourself more shifts or whatever. It's nice to have that option. It's an option that a lot of people don't have. Like I'm turning down work. Like I'm very fortunate for that. So yeah, I was, like I said, I just had so many offers, and I liked the places where I was working. So it seemed like a good risk to take.
Mm-hmm. I remember when you were thinking about making the jump and just doing relief work. And I think one of your concerns was, and you and I both talked about this, like you were worried about potentially there would be months where there would be lots of work, and then there would be months when there wasn't so much work. Like in the wintertime, it tends to be slower in vet practices. And then you were worried about, well, what if I turn down work and, when it's busy, isn't any, when it's slow, but you got over that fear. And so what has your experience in the reality been? Because you are comfortable now with actually turning down work, and you don't worry so much about, oh, what if I won't have enough work in the future? How have you come to terms with it?
Yeah, that's funny. That's true. I guess I thought the one thing that is really good is so far I've only gotten jobs through word of mouth and personal referrals. I've never had to advertise yet. So it tells me that I have a good backup plan. I can start soliciting myself, but I haven't had to. So the handful of clinics I've worked for have needed me a lot. And that's in the ER I was working at that got me all started on this. I worked there for like 2.5 years. They closed down. So I lost that job, and I really liked it. And it was good pay, but they closed down back in December, and I'm still doing okay. So that was good. That makes me happy. You just pick up elsewhere. And I think as long as you're comfortable, the thing is with relief is if you're willing to do ER, there's always that option. There's always going to be that work because the ERs are open 24 hours and they have a lot of shifts available. And again, that's living in the Chicago area. There are a lot of ERs around. So, and I am picking, I don't work at these immensely crazy, busy, high-end ERs because those are usually reserved for people who have interned in ER medicine. So
sure,
but nonetheless, I still find work. So
okay, yeah, because you seem very relaxed with it. You were a lot more anxious in the beginning. So you've been doing it for almost 1.5 years now.
Right. Yes, and it's good. It's really nice to actually go back and forth between ER and GP, and just really helps with burnout.
Some variety.
Yeah, because before you talk about heartworm disease or leptospirosis 10 times a day, and it's like, oh, and now it's like, nope, I don't mind talking about it. It's, it's fine because I don't have to do it 10 times every single day.
Right.
So I have more passion when I discuss it, I think.
So how does your income now as a relief veterinarian, the hours that you work in order to get that amount of income, how does that compare to working as a full-time general practice veterinarian at say, that really high-end general practice in Chicago? Same? Is it less?
Well, I mean, it might all even out by the time you take into account all my expenses.
Okay.
But again, some days I work 2 days a week, and other days I work 4 days, and I don't have to work weekends if I don't. So those benefits are priceless.
I will say you are much happier since you decided to take the plunge and just do relief.
I know. And I see so many vets complaining and hating their life. And I just am like, oh my gosh, like I know how that used to be. And I feel so bad. Like, yeah. And I'm much more laid back.
What is it Is it just the flexibility that being a relief veterinarian affords you? Is it the fact that you can make just as much money even after your expenses, but work less days, less hours?
Yeah.
What is it that has made the biggest difference between, working even as a part-time general practitioner?
Right.
You had more time than a full-time general practitioner, but you still weren't all that happy. I mean, you are very happy now.
Yeah. There's a lot of factors, but gosh, yeah. I have a lot. I mean, obviously the fact that I have more downtime and you have more time to recover. Like I think that your stress level, it's kind of like on a curve and it goes up and up and up. And unless you have time for that to come down, it just keeps rising until you bubble over. Yeah. So I have that and I get to make those own decisions. I don't feel like anybody owns me. I don't have, we all know that there are clients that you dread. You have these repeated clients or these cases that you're so sick of dealing with because they're so hard and you can't figure them out. And I don't have that stress hanging over my head. A lot of times I'm just the person who swoops in and can give my educated opinion or look really good or not know what I'm doing, but have to, that the next day has to deal with it. So just taking that huge, that's a lot of responsibility. It is. And I'm not saying I don't care because I obviously I do my best when I'm there. And I try to leave very detailed instructions because, I have a lot of experience and sometimes I'm handing it over to, vets that don't. So I do want the case to be managed well, but it's kind of nice not to be 100% responsible for a case.
Ongoing, yeah.
I don't know. That's just part of my personality. Some people probably feel the opposite, but it's nice.
I wonder who they are.
Well, I think some people are very controlling or very whatever, but it's nice. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because that's I found that one of the most challenging aspects of being full-time general practice was being responsible for chronic medical conditions over time.
Yeah.
It can be very draining. And I talk about it in book 3 of
okay. So it's not just me. Good.
No. Because, even though we know intellectually that it's a chronic issue and that it's something that has to be managed and can't be cured, even though we know that, and as much as we explain that to the clients, it makes us feel kind of like a failure. Like, I want to fix you and then be done. But, diabetes or skin allergies and again and again and again. And you do, I think, it just, every time they come in, you're like, oh, I failed again. They're frozen.
Oh, there you go. Okay. There you're back. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I was just saying, every time they come back, just like, I failed again because
isn't that crazy? Because look at like a human diabetic. They're always waxing and waning.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we put so much pressure on ourselves? Oh my gosh.
It's a weird psychological quirk. And I've read books written by MDs. That's one of the things they say too. It happens, to a human medical doctor when you see chronic cases. It takes a toll on you. And I think that's the reason.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
So what is it that you think is the most challenging part about being a relief veterinarian? Let's break that into 2 parts, if you don't mind. When you first began doing relief, what was most challenging about it? And now that you've done it for 1.5 years and you've got the hang of it, now what is the most challenging part about it?
In the beginning. Interesting. I guess, in the beginning, it would certainly be marketing myself. And I was starting out at a lot of clinics. And when you're starting out at a different clinic over and over, that's frustrating because you always go in and you don't know the system, you don't know the way it works, and for the first half of your day, you're just like, wringing your hands.
Yes.
So there's always that. but that comes with over time. A lot of the systems are similar, or you just kind of waltz in there and do your thing or whatever. I mean, yeah, some clinics are going to be much better than others. Sometimes your help is going to be much better than others. Mm-hmm. So there still is that. But that would probably be that. What's hard now? I mean, there is still that constant schedule. My life is all about scheduling, staring at my calendar, figuring out what days I should work, what days I should not work, because I'll be overtaxing myself. Mm-hmm. Or, oh my gosh, am I working enough? I'm really guilting myself into saying I really should take that shift because I need the money. But at the same time, I have so much to do at home, or spend time with my daughter, or I can get by. So it's this constant battle with myself, It's almost that guilt factor. I could be making more money, but I don't know if I want to. So.
Right, I know. Sometimes you call me up and you're like, should I take this? I always say no.
Right. I mean, I'll probably still get a next meal, so I realize I'm very fortunate that way. Like I said, I'm very fortunate that I have the option to turn down work and to get by on less than I could be making. Mm-hmm. So,
but it sounds like you're making, probably the equivalent of what you were making as a full-timer.
Yeah, I am.
A lot less stress.
Not full-time in the city, but that's the city. But definitely what a full-time position out here would pay.
In the suburbs. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's also important to take in consideration. I mean, I don't know what the relief market is out here in Flagstaff, but okay. my guess is, maybe it's more competitive, maybe there's fewer practices, right. Hire relief veterinarians regularly. You're in a very highly populated area, even though it's not Chicago, right. It's a suburbs outside Chicago.
So there's hundreds of clinics within 40 miles from me, hundreds.
Yeah. So I think that's part of why you don't really have to worry that much. If you were in a different area, maybe a more rural area, probably relief wouldn't work.
Yeah, and I think about that because, I'm from Wisconsin, and I always think, I miss Wisconsin. We always kind of toss around the idea of moving back. But then I would be so limited because I remember my first job I had, we had a relief vet because the doctor was gone all the time. And we would get this relief vet, and she traveled like hours, and she would of course have to schedule like a week or so someplace so she could stay there. Right. And I, having a child, I wouldn't want to do that. Right. So yeah, I kind of have to stay put for that reason unless I want to get a job.
Yes. So, and I actually I've come across on the internet a company that specializes in supplying relief veterinarians to hospitals. Oh. And they have veterinarians that are licensed in multiple states.
Yes. And I know there are a lot of relief vets who do that. Yeah. They're obviously single.
Right.
No kids.
But it's interesting. I mean, that's another option if you are single and don't have kids, don't have pets to take care of, or you've got a spouse that can do that while you're gone. So some vets are actually, and it must financially pay off because these are vets that work for an agency. So part of their pay is going to the agency. And then I don't know who picks up the tab for the travel. And of course, then they've got their own salary. So somehow the math must add up to make it profitable.
Right. So I do know a vet who does that.
Area, maybe if you're you've got licenses in multiple states, that's something to look into.
Right. I mean, that'd be fun if it was possible. It would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lifestyle decision, right? It's going to work for some people, not for others.
Right. Right. And it would be, it might be fun to work for a month in California and then come back to Illinois or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. It would definitely keep things interesting.
Yeah. So I think in the show notes on the website, I'm gonna see if I can hunt down the website for that veterinary relief agency, just to put it in the show notes for people to check into if they're interested in finding out more about that kind of situation. So tell me this, Dr. Kraemer. Do you think that a newly graduated veterinarian, fresh out of school, is relief work something they can conceivably do?
It's funny because I was just thinking how I needed to make a comment about that. I don't think so at all. I think that would be extremely difficult because, I mean, obviously you might be a lot of times you might be the only vet there at a relief job, and not only that, but a clinic expects you to swap them and do your thing. Mm-hmm. So I do think you probably need a good 5-ish years under your belt. And then not only that, but again, you're learning their system, you're learning their computer system, you're learning to deal with clients and so many things on top of it. You just really have to be very comfortable in multiple clinical settings that would be challenging if you're still struggling with learning the medicine, from the ground up. So yeah, I think it takes time. Something to think about down the road.
I would agree. Mm-hmm. It's a shame though, because, and this is going to segue into the next topic that I want to discuss with you. We started talking about it in the beginning of the podcast, and that is ways for new veterinarians to gauge whether or not a practice is a place that they could be happy. And, it's too bad because, and I talked to, yesterday I recorded podcast number 3, your podcast number 2. I don't ask me why it's reversed like that, but Dr. Spangler, who's a shelter vet, she did a lot of, and she I think she was thinking she would do it to find another place to work. And that's why I did it after the worst practice on planet Earth. I did relief so that I could see inside of these places, because you can never tell from the outside. Not at all. You have to work there to know. Okay.
Absolutely.
But it's a shame that that's not an option for new vets to check out new practices. But maybe. Oh, yeah. What else? What can we tell future veterinarians to look out for? Help them know whether or not they're getting into a bad situation. Right. Dr. That's a really good. Also, her first job out of school was horrible, and she considered leaving veterinary completely because of that job. Okay. Yeah. I could see that. It's because, if you think that's the way it was, and you're miserable, I get that. I've been there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's probably a really good question to ask me, because I judge clinics all the time. I'm constantly, like I said, basically, I'm constantly job hunting in a way. And I have been asked to work at most of the clinics I've worked for, because eventually some vet leaves or whatever. So, and it's like, gosh, where were all these good clinics when I was looking for a job? Oh my gosh. So I've really really pared down my relief work to clinics that are awesome, where people are nice. Oh, the staff is fantastic. You really get opportunity to do that. The number one thing I would say is word of mouth, which obviously now I've been in the area for a long time. I know a lot of vets in the area. So that's the thing is word of mouth. And usually this is word of mouth from other relief vets. We're kind of you got to befriend one of them. Now that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Great idea. Yeah. But that said, my first job I took that was not good, and my job I took at the worst clinic in history, as you say, planet Earth. In the world. Yeah, on the planet Earth, yes. After I started working there, I heard from multiple other vets in the communities that those places were horrible. So why didn't I ask? So that's the number one thing I would say, because that would have saved me a big headache. But then I never would have met you. So there's that, and then like you said, other than that, go with your gut, because the couple of these places, I had a bad feeling and I took the jobs anyway. So you got to go with your gut. You have to
it's kind of like being in a relationship. You're going to bring a lot of baggage from job to job. So there's certain things that you're not going to be okay with, and there's other things that you're going to have to live with, so you can't expect to get everything in a job. So do look at it that way, but don't compromise on the big things. Really look at how this interviewer treats you, how he or she treats their employees, because that's going to be big. And if it's clear that they don't respect somebody or you, then that's a red flag, I would say, for sure. Or if it's clear that you think, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of work, then you're probably going to be overworked, So it's like, these are things I ignored, I think. Yeah. So yeah, you don't have to.
Tell me about that interview where the interviewer was too busy to interview you.
Oh, yes. That was like, okay, see ya. Well, I had two places like that. One of them I knew within, I'm not even lying, less than 2 minutes that I did not want to work for him. And guess what? I did. I followed my first rule. I called somebody else, another vet friend who knows everybody. She's like kind of a bigwig in the veterinary community. And she had told me right before my interview that, I don't think I'd work for them if I were you. Well, she was right. So I walked in, and within 2 minutes, I was like, whoa, I do not want to work for him. He was just really arrogant and condescending. And I was like, yep, nope, didn't even know I was there. So that was a very
place. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I interviewed there too.
I think you did. Yep.
And I did not have an impression of him. I showed up.
Right.
He was like, what position are you here interviewing for?
Yep. Clearly.
He's on your schedule. You don't even know you're interviewing a doctor today? Oh.
No, and they didn't even, and it was not good. So that didn't go well. And then the other one, where they were, she was too busy. Well, they had lost a vet, of course. That's why they were interviewing. And they were so busy. She was so busy that I went in for the interview, and she was talking a mile a minute. I swear to God, she was like, I'm not kidding you. She was talking like this. She was taking deep breaths and just trying to get everything. And I could tell, and I wanted to ask a lot of questions. I'll sit there for 2 hours and drill you because, I've been around the block a time, once or twice. I know what I have a lot of questions to ask. And I felt like I was keeping her. And I was, because when she finally just like, okay, I have to go. And she let the tech take over and give me a little tour. She was literally physically running between rooms. And I thought, oh, heck no, that's not the life I want to live. Nope. I don't need to. You don't need to. I mean, some people do. A lot of clinics are like that, but they don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are some of the questions?
I don't have to be that person.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't want to be. That's not my personality. Yep. I'm too zen for that.
Yeah. So what are some of the questions that you ask? What do you think some of the best questions you have to ask interviewers that give you the most insight and information?
Well, schedule. Okay. Yeah, schedule is a big thing. Schedule.
Schedule.
Well, like, is the schedule, are they asking you to work? Well, like, there's the whole 12-hour day thing. A lot of us work 12-hour days, and I'm kind of over that, to be perfectly honest with you. So I don't want to, that's a big thing. So weekends, how many weekends are you working? Are you working every other? Not bad, acceptable. Or are you working 3 out of 4? Because that's a lot. Mm-hmm. Some clinics are open on Sundays. Let me tell you, as hard as it is to go to work on a Saturday, it's 10 times harder to go in on a Sunday. So I would recommend it. So there's those things. So schedule. Are you going to get a lunch? Is your lunch half an hour? Because then you probably are hardly ever going to get it. I did work at a place for a while that did not provide, that you did not even get a scheduled lunch. What was I thinking? Unacceptable. I finally went in and said, I'm a human being. I need a lunch. And I was ready to quit if I didn't get one. So I got one. So, but shame on me for accepting that in the first place. That's not good. Why would I do that to myself? So there's that. So yeah, be sure you get an ample lunch. I don't accept anything less than an hour. And I have plenty of clinics that give me an hour and a half to 2 hours. Like, how wonderful is that?
Right.
So there's that. Oh, support staff. Support staff. Oh my gosh. How many techs do they have? How many CVTs do they have?
Certified veterinary technicians.
Huge. Yes. That's bit. That makes all the difference. Oh my gosh. You need good techs. You absolutely need a team. Lose my voice here. Do they do boarding and grooming? Like, a lot of places, I mean, I think in the veterinary community in general, it might be a sign of a better clinic if they're not in it for the boarding grooming aspect of it. I don't want to pan everybody that does. Some very good clinics do it on a limited basis, so that's okay. But if they have a huge boarding grooming facility in addition to that, then that might say, hey, they're in it for the dollars kind of thing.
Right.
Another big, obviously you're going to talk about salary. Do not be afraid to highball them. Do not. I mean, you should be. That's it's hard to do, but you should be doing that. But also, a lot of places will get a base salary plus commission. And I've never done that. And a lot of people have troubles with that because sometimes you're just not busy,
right?
Or then it's like I don't know. I don't like that concept.
That's the production model. It's also a production model, just for people listening.
Right. And I get that's the way of the world, whatever. But unfortunately, that is not always in your control. And if it is in your control, then, sometimes you seem like you're selling stuff or whatever. So there's that. I did interview at a place, and it was a good clinic, but it was production only. Oh my God.
No. I know. So can we just dive a little deeper into this commission production topic? Because I want to go further in what you said, because it's really important. And that is, you have no control over how busy the practice is.
Right.
In my opinion, that is their responsibility. The office manager, the owner, whatever. Right. It's their responsibility to appropriately market the practice and to run the practice in such a way that, that there are plenty of clients and pets coming in, right?
Yeah. Even
if they don't, and you're on production.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
I'm sorry. But the point is, if they don't do that and you're on production, then you could be sitting there literally making zero money for the day, or not enough to live on for the day. Right. Not because you're not working, but because they're not doing their job of marketing and managing well. So that's really important. I don't like production.
Well, you have to
in those cases
get paid for your time.
Yes.
No, you have to get paid for your time, because if you are there, you're not working anywhere else. So the thing is that in the busiest clinics that I have worked for, and it's been a bunch of them, there have been many days, even weeks, where I have seen a couple appointments a day in the busiest clinics. I can think of at least 3 that were like you might be normally spinning your wheels all day, but there will be a few weeks out of the year or more where you're hardly doing anything. So that's just going to happen.
Right. Yeah. So it's really, and I don't think that doing a base salary plus production is appropriate for new vets, because there's no way, and working production, I can say, at the last place you and I worked together, not the worst place on earth, but actually the favorite place I've ever worked.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Where I was working before I moved to Flagstaff. But I, just by practicing the kind of medicine I wanted to practice, and by being, straight up with people, my production was great. you don't have to push it. But it takes experience to get to the point where production is naturally going to be high, because you know what the hell you're doing, and you know how.
And you get a clientele.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you might not have anybody coming to see you.
Very true.
They don't know who you are.
Very true. And a lot of new grads, if they start with base plus production, they're going to get shafted. They're going to get shafted, like you said. And especially if you're working in day practice, one of the biggest responsibilities that a general practitioner has is building a loyal clientele, right?
Yeah, right. And absolutely.
Takes time.
So you might be like, even on, I still on relief, like I still see that very clearly, that a lot of times I go in and I hardly have any appointments, because they're like, who's this, Yahoo or whatever. So of course the other doctor there who works there, if there's multiple, they're crazy busy, and I'm just sitting there because, nobody wants to see the new person. I mean, they do try to steer clients to my way, and they're obviously fine when they do see me, but it still happens.
Right. Yeah. So, but you don't have to worry about that, because you get paid by the hour.
Exactly. Gosh, I can't imagine.
Because just
doing commission on relief,
you can't be somewhere else making money.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that's another one of the questions that you asked them. I want to ask you about, there was, I can't remember which clinic it was, but you were telling me you were doing some relief work there, and they had 15-minute appointments, and you said, no, minimum is 20 minutes for my appointment. Yes. And I love that you did that. So that's another new graduate.
And they listened, and it was fine.
Yeah. But remember, we're the worst veterinary hospital on planet Earth. Every appointment was 15 minutes, whether they were sick or well. And if they were well, they often weren't really well. And plus there were walk-ins getting added on. So it was a 7.5-minute appointment, really, because then there was a walk-in to see before your next 15-minute appointment.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which kind of goes back to the asking questions as far as is there ample help, because at our 15-minute appointments, and a lot of, by the way, new grads, a lot of places do 15-minute appointments. I have rarely done it, and I won't do it because it's so unrealistic. Again, I know that's the way of the world, but it's going to be stressful. But at that particular clinic, we were also doing the nail trims and the anal glands and the x-rays and the blood draws, because the support staff was not well trained. So don't do that. That's not acceptable. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Maybe if you live in the middle of nowhere, but it shouldn't be.
Well, if you're in the middle of nowhere, then why are they 15 minutes?
Yeah, that's true. Right. That's true. So you should have enough time to do it. So yeah, good point.
So I guess I would also say, because the last clinic where you and I worked, which I really loved, and you still do relief work there, one of the things I love about that place is they give you the flexibility if you think you need more time for a certain kind of appointment. So it's not one size fits all, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's an important question to ask is, do I have the right to tell the receptionist, this person, it sounds like there's something really serious going on. They're coming in and we really need more time for this appointment. I've got a bladder slot open earlier in the day. Can we give them, a full 30 or more, whatever. Right. The flexibility to do that. Do you as the doctor have the right to do that?
Right. And I work at a handful of clinics that do that. And I have worked at a handful of clinics or I worked at least one clinic where I've gotten in trouble for doing that, which is ridiculous. So it just really speaks volumes to how much they respect you.
So yeah, I think that's it.
Because it's going to, it doesn't matter. What the computer says, it's going to physically take you longer. You can put it in the computer any way you want, but it's going to take me longer to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, so let me ask you this. you think that probably before a veterinarian can consider a career as a relief veterinarian like you, they should have 5 years minimum experience?
I would say at least, unless you are, maybe 4 if you're outstanding. But
Right.
but I like I said, I didn't do it. I mean, I would even say longer than that, depending. But for me, it was a lot longer.
Full-time work experience as a veterinarian, and probably a variety of, some mix of ER plus general practice before they go to full-time relief work. But so what would you, let's say we're giving advice to people who 5 years after they graduate are going to seriously consider becoming relief vets. What advice would you give to them if they wanted to ultimately have the kind of life that you
Well, I just got hit in the face. Well, I think that you have to start a little bit while you still have a job, which, like I said, I used to work full-time plus an occasional ER shift. That was a lot. I mean, I was single, so it was still a lot. It was a lot. Some people can do that. It was hard. I would work 45 hours at my regular job, and then I'd work on a Sunday, so I was giving up, one of my few weekend days off. So that was hard, but you probably need to do that. But then when I really started doing it seriously, I was working very part-time. So it was a lot easier. But you probably need that somewhat of a guarantee, unless you happen to, be in a situation where you don't really need to make that much money. I don't know who you are, and bless your heart, but I mean, obviously, I'm in a relationship and with a partner who is a great career, but not enough to support us both. That's for sure. So I needed a guarantee. So at least I had a few gigs up my sleeve already. When I started, I had a few months booked out already.
Good. That's great advice. I love that. And then talk to me a little bit about what you envision for your future. Yeah, what are your? I know you got something really fun brewing, and if you don't talk, you don't talk about it. If it's
I totally should.
Baby stages, but.
Right. I should talk about it. One thing relief has afforded me is, number one, it's given me opportunity to spend more time with my child. And as any parent will tell you, that's invaluable and something that so many people don't get to do. And it's something that I would never regret. I don't care how little money I am making compared to how much money I could make. That's invaluable. It's wonderful. And then it's also the added bonus of my life being a little more laid back. It's fun to hang out with your child. So there's that, and that's that. Actually, it's funny because when being a relief vet, I volunteered at my child's school tonight for book fair, so I have to leave in 10 minutes. Okay, but I'll finish. So that's good. It's yay me! A lot of times you don't get that opportunity if you're working full time. You miss out on a lot of that stuff.
I'd love the book fair.
Yeah, I'm excited. So there's that, and I recently got certified to teach yoga, which is a passion of mine for a while. And oh my gosh, I never thought I would be able to be an instructor. It was kind of on a whim that I did it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I better do it now while I can. Because, I'm not a spring chicken, number one, and I'm doing relief work, and I have time. So I did it, and now I teach a little bit of yoga. I'm dabbling in some self-care workshops that I'm starting to get off the ground, and I really, really want to promote this in the veterinary community, because I'm shaking my head at how some people just put themselves through hell when you shouldn't. We should all have more respect for ourselves and enjoy this one life we've been given. Absolutely. So I really want to promote the self-care, and I'm doing that through yoga and meditation and self-care, whatever. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. You're actually doing your first workshop. What is it, June 5th?
Yeah, good memory.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the church group.
Very good.
I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah, volunteer group, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, I
a
know you
volunteer group who does stuff for everyone else and needs to do a little bit for themselves. So
Absolutely. Yeah. It's such an important message. And so just before we leave, we're going to wrap up. I know you need to get to your book fair, but tell me if you could offer one piece of advice to future veterinary doctors.
Oh, okay. What would that? Okay, I just remember too that I do a lot of political work too because I have time for that. Right. So I mean, like, oh my gosh, it's like I cut back my hours, but I easily fill it with other stuff. But it's great. It's great that I get to have such a multifaceted life and follow my passions.
You didn't cut back your hours so you could sit on the couch and eat bonbons.
I guess not. Yeah. So yes, one piece of advice. I mean, honestly, I'm going to give you some really, I'm going to try to give you a quote. It's one of my favorite sayings.
Nice.
I just thought about this. And it was when John Lennon was a child, his teacher in grade school gave them assignment that they had to go home and write about what they wanted to be when they grew up. And he answered, I want to be happy. And his teacher said, you didn't understand the assignment. And he said, well, she didn't understand life.
Oh my, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the story. That's the way he tells it or told it. So yeah.
Yeah.
You got to remember that. Like, are you miserable every day? Because that's not the way it's supposed to be. Find a way out. It might not be tomorrow, but work on it and get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that.
So choose. You got to choose happiness. You really do.
It's proactive.
Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily a career advice, but it is life advice, and that's more important. So.
I love it. Dr. Kerry Kraemer, thank you so much for joining us here for the podcast. And I just know that everybody listening is going to get so much out of it. I really appreciate your time and all of the great information and advice you've given. So thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. It was fun.